What is up, guys? God. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Draw Phase. Troll King here. Thanks for stopping by. And in today's video, we're going to do a complete tier list ranking of all the legend cards in Riftbound. Yeah, something I wanted to switch up a little bit by doing some different content. After playing with all the legends, playing different decks and playing against other decks as well, I kind of wanted to rank the legends based off their ability, based off the cards that are available to them, and kind of just organize the decks in a way that what I think is the best, what I think is absolute garbage. So before we get on to the video, I just want to remind you, please subscribe for more Riftbound content. And if you do, and you are one of the first 500 subscribers, you automatically enter yourself to win a Proving Grounds box set. Yep. So when the game releases in October, I'll ship it. I'll pick one of you guys and I'll ship it over to you. Pretty easy. You click a button and you win something. So going straight into the video, let's see right here, tier list, exactly. So we're just gonna base it off S through D, right? Let's start off with Darius. Now Darius is interesting. Color combination of red and yellow. It's mainly like an aggressive deck with a Legion ability. Its legend is really good. I've played with Darius recently, and I found it like initially like playing against it like a little underwhelming. But when you can set your deck right with a bunch of cheap spells and or gears in the seals, then you can get your Legion ability really easily, and then you can use its legend ability often. I mean, once per turn, obviously. But you know, the fact that it's based off Legion, so you kind of have to play two cards, and sometimes like some of the units that you have are like relatively like expensive, right? To pop them off, it would be cool if eventually they make a Legion card that like triggers it twice, or in the future like a different type of Darius where it's like your Legion abilities trigger twice. That would be really cool. But the fact that he helps with the runes, with your resources by tapping one, so it's more accessible, works as well. So you want to put this in a shell like as a mid-ranged or aggro deck. I prefer an aggro because the cards that red and yellow have accessible to them. You know, there's a lot of like Legion effects with creating recruits, obviously in Vanguard Captain and some other ones. And in terms of buffs with like Cleave, gives you Assault 3. It's really easy to trigger your Legion abilities. And the thing is, it's like a really good tempo play, right, with Legion, and then with Darius's legend ability as well. So I'm gonna put him along with like B tier, right? It's kind of there. It needs a little bit more support. It needs a little something to go kind of like over what is like I consider the best decks right now. Darius is still good. I could see it being really good in the future. However, we're just gonna like let him set at B right now. You know, yellow does have a lot of removal. Red has some discard, some Legion effects. Um, you know, really cheap, like aggressive units. So it's just kind of like the color combination is good. Don't get me wrong. Like you have you have accessibility to like Hidden Blade, a bunch of removal, Vengeance. You know, Harness Dragon on a stick is also very good. It's like removal on a stick. Um, its champion units are very good as well. Like the red champion unit in Darius has like this weird static Legion effect in which you can uh, play it and then play another card and it readies and it gets +2, or it triggers itself if it is the second card that you play. So with that alone, if it wasn't for the champion unit, that specific one, Darius, would be a little underwhelming. But I would put it at C. But because the champion unit is actually really good, the red one, the yellow one's okay, but the red one is much better. So we'll just put him down at B. Yeah, I think it's great for beginners as well. Very easy to navigate, and it teaches you like a lot of mechanics of the game in terms of playing playing seals properly, excuse me, to get that legion effect, floating one mana, using the mana, triggering its ability to create another mana, and yeah, pretty good. It's pretty decent. It's like mid tier, I would say. Next, we have Teemo. Teemo. Now, where do I put you? I personally love playing Teemo. I hate playing against Teemo because when it does get a hold of battlefields and it starts putting hidden things on there, especially with Bandletree, the battlefield where you can hide two things at once, it gets really scary and weird. In terms of difficulty, I'd say it's like more so on the expert level side of playing, just because like the way you have to navigate the deck is awkward and it does have like a lot of tools in control. Like purple has like a lot of great control tools and spells in Gust, in Rebuke, in Possession. Although not many people play Possession. You could also maybe have some like reanimator stuff going on with Teemo. But the hidden cards are good. The champion units for hidden are good. You have two in which there is a champion unit in Teemo that when it's hidden and it is revealed, it gets +4. Also, you could just play it raw and it gets +4 that turn. Or you have the Teemo strategist where you look at the top 5 cards of your deck. For every hidden card, you do 1 damage onto an enemy unit at a battlefield. That combo is really nice with Nocturne, right? Because if you're looking at the top 5 of your decks and one of them is Nocturne, Nocturne automatically gets played. The issue is I just don't think there's enough impactful hidden cards for Teemo quite yet. However, I feel like in the future, hidden is going to be a crazy ability, and they're just going to develop it more. Right now we have some hidden units in Sea Tide, the dude where you can like switch positions with the card. So it does do a lot of tricks. I have played against like really good players that just crushed me with Teemo, just because like it's so hard to like kind of like predict what's going on, even though with the limited pool of hidden cards that we do have. Then you have like cards like with Consult the Past where you could draw two cards, and sometimes you just don't want to commit into taking a battlefield where he has like some units or a unit and a hidden card, just because you might fall behind. Um, the one cool thing, or the one good thing if you're going against Teemo, is that it doesn't have access to yellow, so things like Hidden Blade, you don't have to really worry about. However, I really like Teemo. It's just it needs a little more support, right? Its legend ability is really useful because instead of using the power, you're going to be using one rune, and also you can pop back Teemo cards into your hand. So I think in the future, when there's more Teemo cards, it'll be really good. But we're just gonna settle him right next to Darius at B tier, just because of the like two factors. I just feel like it doesn't have enough support, and the fact that it's actually kind of difficult to navigate for beginners at least. Because there's so many like decision making skills you need to kind of have, and it also depends on the matchup. Sometimes you just get like overrun if you're playing like a Victor deck and he goes wide, because then those recruits can kind of just come in if you're scared, right? And trigger the hidden abilities, and then kind of like then sometimes you're behind. And also the fact that like in the rules, if you lose your unit that is holding a base and you're unable to trigger a Teemo, or you're unable to trigger like your hidden effect, it does fizzle away and just disappear and get sent to the trash, because you have to be holding onto a battlefield in order for the hidden card to be activated. So I think in the future it'll be great, but right now we're just going to put it at B tier. Next is Victor. Victor is cool. Hold on, let me take a sip of my coffee in my Naruto cup real quick. Yeah, so Victor's kind of like was like the backbone when the game first started out. I was playing the Pixelborn client, right? And it was like one of the first legends to be revealed. And the fact that Victor's gameplay is quite simple. Like it's like a token deck. You go wide. It does have access to blue and yellow. It has tons of removal. It has really good control cards and stupefy and stuff like that. And the two champion units that coincide with it are the normal champion, which is literally just Victor champion. When one of your units dies, you can create a recruit token, And the other one, Innovator, which I actually recently made a video about, which I think personally, in my opinion, is better because you play uh, when you play cards on your opponent's turn, you create a recruit token. So I think it's like you go wide defensively instead of just waiting for your stuff to die. And then once you've like messed up their turn by playing some type of spells in Stupefy or any type of reaction spells in Hidden Blade, um, uh, yeah, the fact that you can go wide, messing up their game plan is really really good. So, it does have a lot of units that produce tokens. Recently, there's not Call to Glory. There's like the 6 rune cost that creates 4 tokens. You have Evangel Machinist, with a Death Knell ability that creates 3. Um, you can double up with Heimerdinger, copying its ability, so you can just create 2 units, 2 recruit units 1 turn. And the fact that turn 1, you're always guaranteed, if you're playing Victor, even if you have nothing to play in your hand, you use Victor's ability to gain a little bit of momentum in the 1 recruit. Now, talking about the spell cards of the buff, Siphon Power and Grand Stratagem are your like key like game-winning cards, especially Grand Stratagem, where you can just kind of like overwhelm your opponent. For very cheaply, you've been producing some recruit units, and then you just pump out these big spells that give it +5, or in Siphon Power, +1, and then your opponent's -1. Really does swing the game, and it's more impactful the more recruits you have. So, I know this is early in the tier list, right? But I'm going to put Victor at S tier, right? It is like one of the best decks. It has accessibility to a lot of things. The gears that blue have are also really good if you want to like kind of like ramp up a little bit. It has good removal. It has good control. Blue has consult the past, so you can have a lot of draws, like card draw. There's just so many different things that you can do with those 2 color that synergize so well with Victor. I'm gonna have to put him like as like one of the best decks in the game right now. Um, Also, really good to play for beginners. There is a starter deck with Victor. I highly suggest in the future when the game comes out that everybody buys one, because I think Victor is going to be like really, really, really good in competitive play. And it's just cool. There's just so many good cards in those colors. And yeah, it's just awesome. Really good card. One of the first decks I played. I highly suggest playing Victor. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're into token decks. Next is Yasuo. So this is like where it gets like a little iffy. Like initially, like Yasuo was like released as like one of the first legend cards, right? And its ability where you can tap it and you can move units, although very good, if it really is, honestly, like I'm still very unsure. I've played like a lot of Yasuo, and I just felt like the other decks and the other legends that coincide with their colors are just better, right? Because I think that ability of moving units back and forth is really gimmicky and not yet strong, right? Like you're moving around Yasuo, yeah, and you're doing 6 damage based off whatever. Normally, if you're, you have the champion unit, which when it does move before the attack starts at a showdown, it does 6 damage to a single unit. So that's really good because like you can, if it's not ready, you can just move it over there. Um, but it is once per turn. You're only moving one thing per turn, with the legend ability. And if it was like a static ability, it would be too good. And this ability is just like okay at best. In terms of what they have with colors, the thing is like you don't really run that many units. You just kind of run Yasuo, and maybe some early game units as well. And then with purple, obviously you're running your control cards in like Gust, and Rebuke, maybe some other things. But green, you're running your control cards. So like, it's this really weird mixture of like a control deck, and like a unit deck. And I don't know. It's just like either you have to pick one or the other, and just the color combination is kind of awkward right now. So I'm gonna actually have to put Yasuo at like C tier, right? initially I thought it was going to be good, and I've played like a lot of Yasuo like with my Yasuo deck, and what it's available is like you want to like run the champion unit, maybe some other things, maybe a Sona, you know, helps out a little bit. Sona, when it's on a battlefield, you can ready 4 runes at the end of your turn. So it gives you accessibility to some control, but honestly, if you're going to run Sona, just play with Ahri because it's just a better control deck. Whereas with Yasuo, you want like, you know, a big unit and you're moving them around, scoring points, doing some damage, but it's just like the way the meta has like kind of created itself, that ability and the cards that you build with Yasuo just don't isn't that impactful on the meta right now. I think in the future maybe it'll be good. I hope so because I think like the character and like the flavor of the deck is actually kind of cool. However, it is like this weird mix between like, you know, a unit deck and like a control deck, right? Because like you're trying to do damage with units and you're kind of controlling. But in my opinion, like right now, it's like either one or the other is just better. Next, Misfortune. All right. So, Misfortune has like a lot of good cards in it, right? Anything that is running orange um is just good because in Dazzling Aura. So, you can approach like building a Misfortune deck in 2 different ways. You can do it in a control fashion, right? I'm sorry, not a control fashion, a ramp fashion. Because you have access to Mobilize and Catalyst of Aeons, which ramp up. For those who don't know, Mobilize, you channel 1 rune. Exhausted and Catalyst, you draw 2 runes exhausted. So basically, you're just ramping up on your runes. Then you play Dazzling Aura, you play a bunch of big things. Giving things ganking in that ramp structure, in that ramp deck, is really good because big dudes come down, you conquer a battlefield. Next turn, if your opponent has, you know, many things on your other side of the battle, on the other battlefield, or a bunch of units, you can gank them over. So it makes up for that lost time while you're trying to ramp, by being like a little more aggressive by giving something ganking that normally wouldn't have. Like a Volibear being able to gank is insane, right? Because it just has access to those colors. In terms of purple, you know, you have a lot of access to control. Stack deck is really good early game. You can kind of figure out what you want to draw. And the other way to approach Misfortune is in like this really good like tempo like mid range deck. You're running Kraken Bounty Hunter. You know, you're being like really aggressive. Sabotage is one, like, I think like a really good card. You know, looking at your opponent's hand early game, you can play it as soon as turn 1. Being able to see what they have, what their gameplay is, and discarding it is very, very good. Its signature spell is like okay at best, but honestly, like if you're in the late game, you can do a ton of damage, and you know you can kind of like swing the game in your favor if you really want to. And you can also use it early game because it only costs 1 rune, just to kind of pick something off that's annoying, especially with like Master Yi hold decks. You know, being able to pick off stuff with by sacrificing some power is okay. And since you have like accessibility to Mobilize and Catalyst of Aeons, you can play it right. You know, you can recycle runes back into your rune deck and then kind of just ramp up back. So it's okay. But yeah, the fact that you can give things ganking is strong. Like it's really good. Like a lot of people don't utilize it as good as they should, including myself. However, I just think it's really fair, right? So I'm gonna put Misfortune at I'm gonna put him with oh god, I don't know. It's like A or B, A or B, A or B. Um I think because it has access to Dazzling Aurora, I'm gonna put it with A because that card is insane, right? Anything that has access to that card is either B or A. And the fact that you can approach like Misfortune in 2 different types of like gameplay styles is really cool, right? It's really like a um, broad deck where you can just do many things, right? Like orange is a great color because it has so many good cards. So I'm just gonna put it at A tier for now. I don't see it getting any worse. I can only see it getting better. But yeah, that's Misfortune. We'll put it at A. Set, we're just gonna put it right in S. Set is insane. It has one of the best legend abilities in the game, if not the best. It has access, like I said, to orange, so it has like a lot of good cards. Also has access to yellow, which also has a lot of good cards. In terms of removal, right? Call the Weak and Hidden Blade. Very, controlly. Obviously, you want to run set it with a Dazzling Aurora, which means that every single turn, at the end of your turn, you're allowed to play something from looking at the top cards of your deck. The first unit you can play, it doesn't trigger like enter the battlefield's effects if you set if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering. However, it's just good. Like its legend ability, you spend a power, and the unit that died comes back to the base. It is so hard to kill units when you start buffing units. Oh, by the way, yeah, of course the unit has to be buffed. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So yeah, when a buffed unit dies, you can spend a power tapping set, and then the unit comes back to your base. Now, if the unit dies, right, comes back to the base, set is tapped. If you conquer a battlefield, set untaps, and then you can do it again. You don't. That won't happen too often, honestly. Um, it's rare that it happens, but it's just such a good deck. You want to run, and because like there's a lot of units that buff things. You have Arena Bar, which is a gear you have to play in this deck, because it just taps and you can buff a unit. So once you're buffed, you're pretty much well protected. It's really hard to kind of take down set. Once the ball gets rolling, you're spending a lot of resources to remove their units at a battlefield or even at their base, and they come back. So you pretty essentially have to like utilize almost two times the amount of resources if you're using a lot of removal, or two times the amount of units in terms of trying to trump it. Yeah, set is ridiculous. Best deck in the game, I think, in my opinion. Probably one of the best decks in the game. Definitely top three. And yeah, difficulty of the decks, it's relatively easy. There are some like decision making skills on what you actually want to buff. I suggest running Fiora in a set deck because when it does get buff, it gets like a lot of abilities. It gets deflect. I believe it gets ganking and shield, right? Shield one. And yeah, Fiora is a really strong card to be buffing and then resummoning over and over and over again as long it is buffed. So, with that being said, we'll run into Kai'Sa next. I love playing Kai'Sa. I think the colors are really good, red and blue. However, its ability is quite ridiculous, and dude, it just saves you on resources. So you can automatically tap Kai'Sa at reaction speed, and the cool thing is that you can add a power to your pool, and that's like either whatever runes you have. Obviously, you're running red and blue, Fury and Mind, and it really does save you on uh, management resources, right? Like the fact that you can tap, right? You save on a power, right? And then you can just play the runes. It really like mitigates your resources so that you're not falling behind. Um, has tons and tons of removal, right? Uh, Singularity, Starfall, like dude, it's just like it is like a control deck where you're running a ton of spells. Consult the Pasts. You're running the champion unit in Kai'Sa, the four rune cost one, where when it moves to a battlefield and it's conquered, you draw a card. Has tons of card draw. Like I have made a video on the Kai'Sa control deck, and it's really easy to navigate. Teaches you how spell stacks work, and it's a lot of just a lot of fun. I think it is a solid deck. I think it is a solid legend ability, and I've had a lot of fun playing it. I may even main Kai'Sa in the future just because it's like really consistent. So we're gonna put him with her. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put her with. In my personal opinion, I'm gonna put her at A tier. I really like it. I think it's a great legend ability. I think saving that one power is so crucial, especially when you're dropping down spells left and right. And also, if you run Eager Apprentice on a battlefield, it reduces the cost of spells that you cast by one. So the everything like Hextech Ray just well no, Hextech Ray is already cost one. What's it? Two rune cost one power that does six, or your opponent can choose if you draw two. that becomes 1 rune, and it's usually just 2 runes and a power with Kai'Sa's ability. So yeah, you're playing cheap spells. Ichthian Rain, its signature spell, which is like a huge cost spell, 7 runes and 3 power, becomes playable. And there's been games where I play multiple of them in one game. So yeah, I'm gonna put her at A. Volibear. Now, when Volibear first came out, I would say Volibear was like S tier, right? Just because like the cards were being like released slowly. However, I'm gonna move him down to B tier, and the reason being, um, the main focus is like playing big dudes and like Volibear, and just ramping up, and with its legend ability, which if a unit has 5 or more might, which is a considered a mighty unit, you get to channel 1 rune. That's awesome, right? And then you're just ramping and playing big things. But since Dazzling Aurora came out, that's why I went from S to B, because set is just much better, right? The fact that, like, yeah, okay, you're playing big things, but people forget there is removal, right? Once you remove a Volibear that you spent 2, 3, 4 turns trying to ramp up to, you're kind of like falling behind then. But the fact that, I mean, you could also run Dazzling Aurora on this. Like, don't be fooled. Like, it still has access to it. But the thing is, like, once the card is dealt with, right? Other than the reoccurring one big dude every single turn, set is just better because it can revive it basically at its base. So we'll put Volibear at B tier. Signature spell Stormbringer is scary, and where you could just do damage based off one of your units at your base to a battlefield is really good. Kind of just like it's a board clear on that battlefield. But all in all, I think Volibear has seen less and less play, and I just think there are other cards that are better. The other thing with Volibear that it's really susceptible to is like aggro decks, right? Once, because you're playing big dudes late turn, and once you like kind of like stabilize, then you can be very successful in like winning and scoring points. However, there are a lot of decks like Invictor where they just go too wide, and like really aggressive decks are just like too fast for Volibear to keep up. So they kind of just like take the board, especially like with like Master Yi is really hard to beat as Volibear. So we're gonna keep in that B tier. Next is Jinx. Jinx. The thing is, Jinx, like mechanically as a deck, like all the mechanics that it has, is very good. It's very, very dependent on an aggressive discard deck, because when you have 1 card in hand, you get to draw a card. So drawing 2 every single turn is strong. Essentially, you're digging for Super Mega Death Rocket. I have seen deck lists where Jinx is starting to be played differently, right? It's starting to be like more, instead of like an aggressive discard deck, like more of a mid-range deck where they're structuring Jinx in a different way, and it seems to be very successful. Um, in terms of like matchups going against certain decks, it can pretty much like kind of like trump almost everything, except for set. Jinx has a lot of trouble with set because the fact that everything's buffed and Super Mega Death Rocket has kind of like a breakpoint at 5. It only does 5 damage. And with a lot of the buffs that set gives to the units that it has is like over 6 or 7. So it has trouble with that because the units it's run are fairly like weak in terms of might. Although it is a great beginner deck. I think the legend ability is quite strong. Drawing 2 cards is really, really good. And Super Mega Death Rocket, but depending on the matchup, is very like mid, right? It can be very good. Like against Victor, it's kind of like useless, right? Because you have a bunch of like it's just too wide. In any type of buff deck like Set, it can't really deal with. And in terms of like control decks with like Kai'Sa and everything, they're running very little units. Yeah, it'll kill the Kai'Sa. However, that matchup is really weird because they're just running spells, whereas you're running like small dudes and remove like the Super Mega Death Rocket is your main form of removal. It's just an awkward matchup. So I'm gonna put her at A. I think it's a really fair deck. It is developing into something different as of what it originally started with like an aggressive discard deck. In terms of the colors, like you have a lot of access to discard. Obviously, red is really good for discard. The champion unit is amazing, and purple, some control stuff. Wandering merchant also when it moves, it discards. Your battlefields are really good. in Zon Warren, so you can protect a little bit. And yeah, yeah. So we're gonna put her at A. Fair deck, great beginner. Also one of the starter decks. And yeah, yeah. I like Jinx a lot. It's really good. Next, Ahri. Oof. I want to put Ahri in S tier. I really do. Like I really, really do. Um, I honestly think Ahri is like the best control deck right now. Because Sona. If it wasn't for Sona, it would be like I'd put Ahri down, maybe at B or A. Um, let's just think about this for a second. So the color combination is good. You know, green and blue has so many options in terms of control. So let's just go over the legend ability first. You know, it gives -1 to your opponent if they're attacking or defending. I'm sorry, it's only when you're defending. Yeah, so it does give your units or your opponent's units -1 while you're defending a battlefield, right? And then there's so many like layers to this deck that have to be considered, right? So your champion unit when on a battlefield, right, gives it -2, so you're instantly doing -3. Um, Plus all the control aspects of it, right? You have access to blue, you have access to green. So many things, so many card draws. Stupefy, you get to minus more. Smoke screen is so crucial too. You know, people don't really run Portal Rescue or anything, but the fact that green has charm, so removing your opponent's units, kind of controlling their board state, like very, very well. You have defies, you have wind walls. You also have some buffs to kind of just like over trump to make sure you're protecting your Ahri very well. But it's like so hard to get when an Ahri has established a battlefield like dominance, and then it's just Ahri's on there with like Sona and maybe something else. It's so hard to get rid of Ahri with just pure might. And you know you got to look at like the dex set is like focused on might and buffs. Victor has some battle tricks and grand stratagem and siphon power. Raw might, you know, also Jinx, Volibear, Darius. You know the fact that it gives everything -3 essentially, and then also the signature spell in Foxfire. Just it's just like really good removal as a hidden card. So I'm gonna put Ahri at A. I'm more than likely gonna main Ahri as one of my decks. Most likely, and yeah, I just really like the control aspect of it. It has great resources and tools, and yeah, yeah, Ahri is like definitely like A tier. Next, Lee Sin. I'm gonna put Lee Sin with Yasuo just because. All right, so like it does have access to buffs, right? The color combination is quite good in orange and green. However, there's really not much to talk about because like in terms of a buff deck, right? The Lee Sim champion units are underwhelming. Its legend ability, although like conceptually is very good, um, you're just buffing units by 1, right? Whereas in set, you're using, you know, gears, spells, other units to buff the units, and then you get like a bonus effect through set's legend ability. But like that one might really isn't that impactful if you're just like buffing units. Like, yeah, of course, there are some units that gain benefits if it is buffed. However, it's just in the meta right now, it is incredibly underwhelming. So I don't think I'm gonna put this any more higher than C tier. Like right around with Yasuo. Like initially I thought it was gonna be good, but the fact units only can get 1 buff. There is one unit that can get as many buffs as it want, like in Lee Sin. However, it's just easily removable, right? You're committing a lot of time to like building up this one big card, and then there's just like better ways to buff cards, or with battle tricks sometimes it doesn't even work out that you're buffing the units. So yeah, I'm gonna put him with Yasuo. It's not the best deck. It's not the most terrible deck, right? Like I think it just needs a little more resources and like future sets. But we'll see what it has in the future. I could be wrong. It's just I don't play that much Lee Sin because I'm not a big fan of its legend ability. Leona. We will put Leona at. We'll put him. We'll put her along with Yasuo, Lee, and Lee Sin. So the issue is like the color combination is a little awkward. Like green is like very controlly more so, right? and with some good units and like some battle tricks, right? That's like really one good thing. Discipline, on guard, even some card draw on like meditation and stuff. The issue is that stun is a very underwhelming ability, and like you really want to run as many things stun, like stun. You can like stun cards, stun spells, stun units as possible to kind of like gain its effect. The issue is like the way stun works in showdowns is really like kind of not that great because of the fact that when all right, so when the showdown happens, right, and there's a stun, you stun your opponent, even though it doesn't commit to battle damage during that showdown. If you still are, if you still have less might during that showdown, you go back to your base, and if you have more, then your opponent's unit that is stunned goes back to his base, so you conquer. But the issue is like if you just had more power on board, you wouldn't have to stun, and then you can conquer anyway. As a reaction to stun is really strong, just in case to kind of like, oh hey, like I didn't want to commit to this showdown because he had some battle tricks. Then yeah, it's good. But like honestly, the way the meta has like developed itself, like just having more might with like other battle tricks is just better. And stun is just like okay at best, honestly, in terms of battle effects and stuff. So yeah, I haven't really played much Leona. I could be wrong. Its signature spell is like way too expensive, I think, for what it does. And yeah, so we're gonna put Leona at C tier just because like I just think it's okay at best. Little below average. I'm not a big fan of the the card, honestly. But I could be wrong, and one day it could be S tier, but we'll see. Next is Annie. Annie's cool, but I'm gonna put her at I'm gonna put her at B tier actually because Annie actually has a lot of potential, right? So it is more control deck. It does have a signature unit, which does 3 damage, but like the thing is, has access to a lot of spells. I personally run Annie in a reanimator deck. Um, it seems to be pretty okay. Like when the cards got released, like the last end of the cards, you had a lot of vision. Like, you had a lot of like potential to do like reanimator decks. So I built one, and it's okay. You control the deck, or you control the game like early with a bunch of spells, and then you can play Soul Gorger or the Harrowing, and you can just like chain like reanimate effects after reanimate effects. You do still have to pay the power cost in them, but I just think like its ability is really good. Like the legend ability is quite strong. Like readying 2 runes every single turn is really good for your spells, so you don't have to worry about resource management, especially like since you're playing usually like anywhere between like 2 to 4 cost runes. Um, but I just don't. I just think like Ahri trumps it. Jinx can easily take out Annie. It just like has a lack to like access to good units because it's more like of a late game deck in terms of like when you want to play big things. And by then you're just obviously run Immortal Phoenix as well. By then you're just kind of just like your opponents like decks that they play have kind of like popped off, and you just like I just seem like I'm always behind when I play Annie because I'm waiting them for to do things instead of being like more productive and like having more tempo. So we'll put Annie at B, and yeah, we'll put actually Lux at B as well because same thing, like yeah, like Lux taps for 2 runes. I'm sorry, that's the champion unit. Lux legend ability is when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, you get to draw a card, and that's really good. Like mid game, right? Obviously, you have your champion units that 4 cost, no power, 2 might, that taps for 2. So once you have like a lot of those on board, right? Maybe 2, right? Then you could be start slinging spells left and right. There is also one cool thing with Lux is that it has like a game-winning condition, like a one-turn kill. If you're like holding the battlefields, you can channel or you can pay possible futures, changing possibilities. Possible futures. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a card where you really reveal the top like 5 cards your deck. You pick one. You can play Time Warp like once, and then you play Time Warp again on your other turn. So that's like one cool thing I haven't been able to pull off. It's a little difficult. The thing is, like, you're just running big spells, and the other champion unit that gets +5 when you cast a spell 5 or more. It gets strong, gets really big, but it is like quite expensive, and then it doesn't really you can't really fit all those cards in there. So basically, you're just kind of like controlling the battlefield with some small units and just like popping big spells left and right. So yeah, we'll put her at B tier. Next is Master Yi. I'll put him directly to S. Great color combination, great deck, great accessibility. You only need to run a couple units, and that unit gets +2 when it's defending. Then there's a water. What's the one unit called? It gets +2 when it's attacking or defending, and it is a 2 might unit. So automatically for 3 runes, it's a 6 plus all your battle tricks that you have. You have access to defies and wind walls. Yeah, Mastery turns out to be also like it won the first tournament in China. It topped at won first place. So yeah, Mastery is really strong. You only need to run a couple units, and then other than that, you're holding the battlefield and you're just popping battle tricks and discipline on guards. Wind walls, controlling charms. You can even do to move around. And yeah, when you the champion unit that's really good, and both of them are good. Like one enters ready, right? Master Yi, the champion, and the other one gets +4 when you have 8 or more runes. So as long as you mitigate your, or you could like you manage your resources like fairly well, then yeah, Master Yi is just awesome. You just kind of sit there, you play defensively, and you kind of just win the game. Like it's really hard to kind of trump Master Yi because he has removal. Sometimes he's just sitting there on a battlefield, like some units are sitting in a battlefield, and he'll just pass the turn just because he has nothing to do, right? Because he's reacting to what you're doing. So very strong type of gameplay, very strong deck, cool legend, awesome champions. Yeah, definitely top tier. One of the best 3 decks in the game. Lastly, but not least, we have Garen. Absolute trash. Dude, I hate Garen. Sadly. So like, let's just talk about its ability. The legend ability. If you conquer a battlefield with 4 or more units, you draw 2 cards. That's, I mean, listen. So the way Garen, like you have to build Garen, you have to go wide, and then you have to just like ensure that you conquer that battlefield with 4 units even to get its ability, right? Its ability is like really bad, really really bad, because if you're building up an army on your base, maybe by turn 2, if you're lucky and the stars aligned, you can have some recruits and maybe like 2 3 or 2 might units, because the Garen champion unit is like 5 in a power, and it's like too costly, and it doesn't enter ready. So if you're gonna go with it, then maybe like you get some benefit mid or late game. But the fact that you just have to build up an army, um, which I think Victor just does better because it buffs it with spells, and has some card draw in Consult the Past. The fact that you need to conquer with 4 units to draw 2 is just not set up well for this game, like the way the other cards work. It is the worst legend, which is a shame because like I just think they made it wrong, right? Like I loved Garen's like his like the flavor, I guess you could say, of Garen in like League of Legends, right? The way that he's like a tank, and he can just like sit there, and just go to battle or just like fight by himself, and he's just a lot of like hit points in the game. But in this, it's just really awkward. Like you have to go wide, you have to build an army, you have to ensure that you conquer just to draw 2 cards. Whereas like Victor, if you draw Consult the Past, you can just draw anyway. Lux draws cards just for playing spells, right? Jinx, if you have 1 card in hand, you draw 2 cards. Like it's just so underwhelming. It doesn't fit in the meta. I played Garen. I made like 2 Garen decks. Played it on Pixelborn, lost every single game. Every single time I play against a Garen, I beat Garen. And it's just like not that great. Maybe in the future they'll do a reprint, but I think this card was just not well thought about. I just don't think they really committed the time to like developing this card and the way it's supposed to function. In terms of accessibility, like yeah, you in yellow you want to run all the units that create recruits, right? Captain Vanguard and like so forth. Orange, maybe some like cheap units that buff things, so you kind of have like power, and then as soon as Garen comes down, you get +1. Whenever it's on a base or a battlefield. But terrible deck. Honestly, it's not good. The signature spell is also trash in my opinion. I hate to roast Garen so bad, seriously, guys, because like I was kind of looking forward to it. I was like, all right, 2 cards. All right, then I played with it a little bit, and I was like, nah, it just doesn't work out. There's just better ways to draw cards, right? There's better legend abilities, and yeah, so I'm just gonna put him down at D tier. And that concludes the tier list. It is a lot longer of a video than I expected it to be. However, it is done. So we're gonna just stop at that. If you guys like the deck, or if you guys like this type of comment, please let me know in the comments. I want to do like one ranking all the cards in like every single color. So like one day we'll do a tier list of like all the cards in chaos colors or chaos domain, red, purple, blue, yellow. So definitely like comment down. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I did a good job in terms of listing everything. I think it's actually relatively fair. Other than that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to enter yourself to win the Proving Grounds box once we reach 500 subscribers. And for more Riftbound content, of course. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.